Hello, everyone, and welcome to this event marking the 50th commemoration of Land Day, Yom al-Ard, held by the Palestine Return Center. I'm very honored to be joined here by Dr. Salman Abu Sitta. I will begin by providing a brief biography of Dr. Salman. Dr. Salman Abu Sitta is a distinguished Palestinian scholar, historian, and advocate for refugee rights. Born in Bi'r Seba in southern Palestine in 1937, he was displaced during the 1948 Nakba, profoundly shaping his life's work. Trained as a civil engineer, he earned his PhD from University College London. Alongside his professional achievements and membership of the Palestinian National Council, Dr. Abu Sitta is known for his extensive research on Palestine's geography and demography, particularly the villages depopulated during the Nakba. He is the founder and president of the Palestine Land Society and the author of numerous books and studies, including the Atlas of Palestine. Through decades of scholarship and advocacy, he has become a leading voice on the Palestinian right of return. And it's a great honor to be with you here today, Dr. Salman. I want to begin by paying tribute to Land Day, as it's the 50th anniversary, so a major milestone in the Palestinian struggle and Palestinian modern history. So I'll say a few words first about Land Day, because I think it's often passed over, particularly outside Palestine, by people who don't know enough about it. So Land Day, Yom al-Ard, on the 30th of March 1976, there was a general strike across Palestine, across all of historic Palestine. The background was that the Israeli government wanted to confiscate 20,000 dunam, around 20 square kilometers, between the Palestinian villages of Arabe and Sakhnin, as part of the so-called Judaization of the Galilee policy, which was continuing the Nakba for Palestinians in Israel, or 48 Palestinians, as they prefer to be known. So during this huge day of strikes and action on the 30th of March 76, 6 Palestinians were killed. Their names were Raja Hussein Abu Raya, Khadr Abd Khalila, Khadija Johaina from Sakhnin, Khair Mohammed Yassin from Araba, Mohammed Yusuf Taha from Kufr Kanna, and Rafat Zohairi from Nur Shams refugee camp, killed in the village of Taibeh. And I think that their martyrdom has echoes today when we hear about the vastly larger casualties which are currently happening. So over 2.5 years of the genocide in Gaza, we have figures now of at least 73,000 Palestinians, probably many, many more, killed in Gaza. This is according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Over 1,000 Palestinians killed in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Over 5,000 Lebanese killed, and currently more than 1 million Lebanese displaced by the Israeli occupation of southern Lebanon. Over 2,000 killed in Iran by Israeli and US aggression, and more casualties in Syria, Yemen, Iraq, and elsewhere in the region. So, Dr. Salman, I'd like to begin by asking about Land Day in 1976 specifically. And if you had any memories of hearing about this Land Day, or events around the time, the so-called Judaization of the Galilee process that Israel was imposing, and your reflections on the meaning of Land Day, both historically and today.
Well, thank you for having me. When I hear Land Day, to me, what comes to mind is genocide. Genocide, what's the connection between Land Day and genocide? The connection is very clear. Since the 19th century, Palestine was described by early Zionists in Europe that it's a land without people, for a people without land. Of course, we know this is false because during the 19th century, there has been many travelers and people who visited Palestine, geographers and historians, and also various people who documented Palestine very clearly. One of them, of course, one group is the British Survey of Western Palestine, in which it described over 4 years Palestine in about 13,000 place names, in about 12 volumes, and so on. There are others like Kiepert, the German, who made plans of Palestine. So the idea that Palestine is a land without people is really a policy planned by Zionists early to make it so, to make it a land without people, to make it depopulated. And the genocide in Gaza today is the last chapter of the policy which started very early. For example, in 1940, Joseph Weitz, who was the chief of Jewish National Fund, declared clearly under the British mandate, we will not leave one city, one village, one tribe in Palestine. That is a formula for genocide. And therefore, saying Palestine is a land without people is not an idea or a myth. It's a plan which has been in the working since the 19th century. Today, it's being activated very clearly, not only now, but even before 1948 and after 1948. We know in the history of Nakba very clearly that 530 towns and villages have been depopulated by massacres, depopulated from their homes by massacres and by atrocities which are recorded by the United Nations Truth Observations groups. So here, when we talk about that, we are looking at a genocide policy adopted by the Zionists from early on, first as a theme, then as a policy under cover under the British mandate, and 1948, it's a policy which is carried out clearly. 530 towns and villages have been depopulated. Every one of them has been expelled through a massacre of some kind. We have records of almost 300 war crimes committed by Israel in the period 1948 to 1955. So Israel of today is built on genocide of Palestinians. And this is continued even today. But we survive, and the whole people of the world know a little bit more about Palestine. Let me just add one more thing. Because you cannot make the world accept this genocide, the answer to that, when the genocide of Palestinians is known, is to penalize and to prohibit and vilify anyone who tells the truth. Telling the truth is a crime for Zionists, but it is a necessity for free people in the world. I ask, who is afraid of truth? Only the guilty, only the criminal. So all the silencing of the stories about Palestine suffering and crimes against them is actually a weapon of ethnic cleansing as well. Now, let us hope that today, with the means of communications are so important and available, that truth will come out. It is coming out. For example, we see young people around the world crying, "Free Palestine, free Palestine." So there is a time that truth will come out and will not be obstructed by Zionist verification and pressure. But it is time to correct the situation. Not only we are talking about history, it's happening today, today in Gaza, in West Bank, and everywhere. Every Palestinian today, he is living away from his home, is a victim of the Israeli genocide. That is a fact. That's a fact. And if you silence anybody who's speaking about that truth, and that was this travesty of justice, is accused of crimes against Israel. Well, it's very clear to me. If people speak the truth, they should speak the truth. And the criminal is the one who should be brought to justice, not the victim of the crime.
Yes, indeed. And we hope that there will be justice. And I think that it's a sign, actually, of the desperation of the Zionist leaders when they continually refer to anti Semitism, and it becomes their only response to any criticism of their government and their actions and their colonial land theft. Which continue, with every moment. And only yesterday there was a law passed that was called for the execution of Palestinian prisoners in Israeli prisons. So it's very clear that this is a genocide that continues. Thank you so much for giving your view.
Allow me to make a comment.
Yes.
You mentioned anti-Semitism. It's the curse upon every Western politician who dares to speak the truth. I ask a simple question. What is anti-Semitism? Does it mean that Palestinians should be killed and expelled from their homes? Is that anti-Semitism? If it is anti-Semitism, a crime should not be condoned. What is anti-Semitism? Does it mean that you are against Palestinians who are the original inhabitants of Palestine, who are Semites? Well, I'm then against it because I'm against verifying or accusing unjustly about the Semites who are Palestinians in Palestine. Does it mean that you are objecting to Ashkenazis coming from Eastern Europe in smuggler ships occupying another country and committing over 300 massacres in Palestine? Then against that. So the definition hide another crime. We have to be clear about what crime is committed. It is the only one committed against Palestinians by Ashkenazis coming in smuggler ships under the protection of Britain to occupy another country and to depopulate 530,000 villages, making 9 million Palestinians today refugees. This is the crime to be punished and to be described.
For sure. I just want to say at this point in time that we are also open for questions from the viewers. So if anyone is watching on any online platform, please make your comments on the video and I will receive those and be able to pass them on to Dr. Salman. In the meantime, I think because you mentioned and you began with the subject of the 19th century and the history, you mentioned the survey of Western Palestine from the Palestine Exploration Fund. I want to ask your opinion because this is also an issue that I think about a lot, which is why so often history books, university courses, even by strong advocates of Palestine, they begin the story in 1917. They begin the story with the Balfour Declaration and with the British occupation of Palestine during the First World War, when in fact, I think that I and also you would say that for the origins of this, we have to go back to at least the 19th century and look at what preceded the Balfour Declaration. So what are your thoughts on that? And how do you think we can shift the narrative somewhat to looking at a longer version of Palestine's history?
That's a good question. Thank you for raising this point. In the 19th century, there has been a rise in the European attempt to revisit the Holy Land after 1,000 years after the Crusaders. In the 19th century, adventurers, priests, geographers, and various people came back to the Holy Land to visit it after an absence of 1,000 years. And in that time, the Holy Land was considered to be sacred for various people for various reasons. And the British sent a survey team based on Palestine Exploration Fund, which was established in 1865. It was mainly intended to study the language of the home of Jesus Christ. And so Palestine Exploration Fund was created to study the Bible, the geography of the Bible of the land. And they sent a team who lasted 4 years, from 1871 to 1877 in Palestine. And they produced very useful data, 12 volumes, and actually 10 or 20 maps. In Palestine Land Society, we examined this record, historical record, very carefully, and we made a deal with PEF to open their files which have never been opened before. And we produced the Atlas of Palestine, 1871 to 1877, in which we located 13,000 place names, village names. We also examined how it took place, but we have also noticed that at that time there is a touch of a crusader spirit, because they were in the memoirs of PF, they were referring to the Crusades as if they are saying, here we come back again. But our atlas identifies 13,000 places, villages and cities. We corrected their names. We corrected also the geography of PF maps, because at that time they didn't have great accuracy. We also added the proper Arabic names of place names. So instead of using the PF survey to serve an imperial objective, we made it to be a record of Palestine in the 19th century. I invite people to look at our website, www.plands.org, in which we describe this exercise.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salman. Absolutely. I mean, you've really summarized it so well. It's so important to look at this period, which led directly in many ways to the British mandate, rather than, being some irrelevant part of history. And also to study the land of Palestine not just through a political lens, but also to look at the geography and the indigenous culture and the indigenous knowledge around the land, which existed for centuries until it was destroyed in the Nakba, and it's preserved through your work, which is invaluable. So thank you so much.
I should also add to my answer to your very good question. I did not do that before. That Balfour Declaration came at a time, you know, at 2nd of November 1917. Now, let me go back a little bit before. On the 2nd of November 19, actually 2 days before 2nd of November, General Allenby made his first victory in occupying Palestine. Before that, in the 6 months before, Allenby, British forces coming from Egypt, attacked Gaza twice and failed to take it. But on this date, 30th of October 1917, Allenby forces managed to make the first victory in Palestine by taking the town of Beersheba from the Turkish authority. What happened on that day, 30th of October 1917? General Allenby sent a telegram to London saying, we took Beersheba, he said that because they had series of feasts before that. He sent a message to London on 30th of October saying, we took Beersheba, Jerusalem will be your Christmas present. That cable arrived to London on 1st of November 1917. Balfour picked up a paper he signed with the Zionist leaders, the rich Zionist leaders in Europe, few months earlier, and he declared Balfour Declaration on the 2nd of November 1917, 2 days after Allenby telegram. And actually, it showed the conspiracy British had with the Zionist leaders in Europe before. They were sitting on this agreement, not being able to announce it because they did not take Palestine. So when Allenby declared his first victory by taking Beersheba, they made it public, which just shows you that this conspiracy is planned and it is against the right of Palestinians, but also against the assurances of the British government telling the Arabs, if you revolt against the Turks, we will allow you to have your freedom and will support you. So the treachery is manifold. British policy treachery, Balfour treachery, and treachery against justice and against civilization.
And treachery continuing today in the positions of the British government and many other Western governments, not only regarding Palestine, also the current war with Iran.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I'd like to move on a little because one of the subjects of this conversation is also the Jewish National Fund, which has been, from before the Nakba and under the Mandate era, one of the main methods in which land was taken from Palestinians, and it continues today. So I'm wondering if you'd like to share your perspective on how the Jewish National Fund has operated in the past and continues to do so to try and hide evidence of a Palestinian civilization in the land.
Yes. I hope you can hear me because
Yes.
the line is a bit unstable.
Okay.
Yes, the Jewish Nation Fund was established in the year, I think, 1905, which is well before Israel was created, very much so, and also before the British conquered Palestine. So the Jewish Nation Fund is intended to seize Palestinian land long before it was known to be possible for them. And therefore, Jewish Nation Fund is really embodiment of the policy which makes people, makes Palestine land without people and taking it over. We have published an atlas of the Jewish Nation Fund and have shown that the Jewish Nation Fund, which precedes the establishment of Israel, was intended to carry out the genocide of Palestinians, namely to take their land and to remove the people, either by killing them in massacres, as they have done, or by expulsion. The Jewish Nation Fund, therefore, is an instrument of carrying a crime of genocide against Palestinians, although it is registered in many Western countries as charity. Let me tell you some figures. The Jewish Nation Fund at the moment owns 13% of the area held by Israel. Actually, it held more than that, 19%. Why? Because in 1948, there was a fictitious sales agreement, very funny story, although it's tragic, between the Jewish Nation Fund and Ben Gurion. In December 1948, the Haganah occupied many parts of Palestine and made its people refugees. And the land they controlled under international law is not their land. So they devised a trick to make a sales agreement between Ben Gurion and the Jewish Nation Fund. Why did they do that? Because Ben Gurion would then be released from the responsibility of giving the land back. It's given now to the Jewish National Fund, which is an international body in 55 cities in the world. It will be difficult for Palestinians to chase them. Under this agreement, false sales agreement, Ben Gurion sold to GNF 2.25 million dunams of Palestinian land. And dunam is 1,000 meters. So 10 dunams is 1 hectare. This false agreement is, of course, false by every possible law, because neither the buyer nor the seller have any title to the land. But even today, Jewish Nation Fund controls 19% of the land in Palestine, occupied land of Palestine under Israel. They claim it to be environmental agency. This environmental agency deals with stolen land. They plant parks on it. They planted 84 plants on Palestinian land. None of them is built on original Jewish land. So the Jewish National Fund is not only a criminal, but the prime criminal of the stolen Palestinian property of land. It should be taken to court in the multitude of cities and countries in which it is registered. This has not been done. When it was done, the courts of these Western countries dropped the idea, but it is a clear case of robbery.
Yes, for sure. As you mentioned, the perspectives are changing among young people, and people are waking up to the crimes committed. So hopefully that will change. I want to now bring the conversation to the present moment and the current situation existing in Palestine, Lebanon, across the Arab region, and in Iran as well. We're living, I think, in quite an unprecedented moment. And really, Israel is fighting on all fronts. It's obviously sustained itself through aggression against Palestinians and against Arabs and Muslims in other parts of the world as well. But now we're seeing this ongoing attack on Iran, in which I think it's quite clear that Netanyahu has convinced Trump to join in what is Israel's fight against Iran. Also, the attack on Lebanon. And this comes after 2.5 years of increased genocide in Gaza. Where do you think, from your perspective, this region is heading, and what is the future of the Palestine question in this situation? Because it seems like sometimes it seems like Israel has almost unlimited power and influence over the United States. And I'm interested in how we can move on and how we can restore some strength to the Palestinian struggle.
That's a very good question, a very painful one, because all what you said is true. It's painful because we see it before our eyes, and we see the crimes are committed daily. We see that instead of Israel being brought to justice, the opposite true. Palestinians and Arabs in neighboring countries to Palestine, Israel, are reduced to very small, their countries are reduced to no significance, actually. Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and even Egypt. It's a very unusual situation in which Israel, which is supposed to be a small country fighting for its survival, it's now the neighbors of Israel are fighting for the survival. And to my mind, this is the replica of what happened 1,000 years ago when many forces in Western Europe sent forces to Palestine under the name Crusades to conquer that. Now Israel is doing it, but assisted by the very same people in Western Europe who did that 1,000 years ago. And not only it's done by these Western countries, but people in the United States, for example, claim this to be national policy. National policy is to conquer the Middle East, to destroy Palestine, and to make Israel the hired gangster of the region. They supply them with arms, money, and support, and say, hey, we let you loose on the area, you conquer, you kill, you do this on our behalf. So, hence the word which has been repeated in some newspapers, which is it the tail wags the dog or the dog wags the tail? Israel is nearly now the hired killer of the region. They have no other purpose. Supposing this purpose is not required, they have no reason for the support they get from the Western world. Now, this is the sad part of the story. But history told us the people, the Arab people, have been subject to so many disasters, so many crises. And in every case, they suffered a lot, but they rose from the ashes. Because you cannot conquer people who lived in this region for 1,000 years. They gave the world Christianity, Islam, they gave them numerals, they gave them the alphabet, they gave them science. How can you destroy them? What is happening at the moment is very sad part of history, and I hope it will not continue for a long time.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's very relevant that you mentioned the Crusades, because we know that this Crusader discourse is still used by people like Pete Hegseth, the US War Secretary, and those who support Trump in this. And they totally overlook the fact that Israel is oppressing Christians in the land of Christ's birth as much as they're oppressing Muslims. And I mean, it's Easter next week, and it's been a horrendous situation in Jerusalem leading up to Easter. Okay, well, I think another aspect of this current situation is that Israel is using its this war as a cover to take more Palestinian land and pass new laws oppressing Palestinians. I mentioned about the execution law they want to impose on prisoners. There's also the case where they are expropriating land under the pretext of archaeology, and they are starting this process with the Sebastia historic site near Nablus. They are also claiming that any archaeological site in Palestine should come under Israeli jurisdiction, which essentially, there's archaeological sites in every village around Palestine. So, I mean, do you have any reflections on this situation and how we can bring it to attention? How we, as supporters of Palestine, some of us Palestinians in the diaspora or inside Palestine, can actually bring back the focus to Palestine and expose Israel's crimes?
Needless to say, anything Israel or so-called Israelis in 1948 did since that time is illegal. It's illegal by any convention, by international law, by morality, by humanity, by even the laws of Palestine before Israel was formed. There is no legality whatsoever to anything Israel and the Israelis have done since 1948 and even before. Acquisition of Palestinian land is illegal and wrong, criminal. Destroying the history of Palestine is also the same. Trying to take or rename the archaeology of Palestine to serve their purposes is also illegal. There is nothing Israel is done or have done is legal under any law. Now, as you say, they acquire the land in the West Bank, which is occupied territory. And let me just add one thing in the international law. The international law says the ownership of any piece of land is unfettered by occupation, by change of government, by anything. This is very clear. And under this law, Palestinians have the right to recover and to take their land, even though Israel takes it over by laws, they call it done by government of Israel. Let me give you a simple example. In Bosnia, the Serbs took the land of the Bosnians and their houses and so on. When the United Nations finally imposed international law, every Serb person has to give back the property of a Bosnian which he has taken over, even though he has taken a house and painted it and built 2 floors above. He has to bring this back. So the ownership, original ownership of any property in international law is unfettered no matter what. Now, the question is, if you talk about law, and Israel is violating every single sentence of the law, but what we should do, we continue to do, that we have to record all these violations. There are many institutions in the United Nations which track all these violations and record them. Luckily today with the satellite, we can chase everything back. The tragedy in the world today that the Western nations, which have created havoc in the region of the Middle East since the Crusader War, are still calling the shots. When you get a man like Trump saying atrocious things which have nothing to do with the reality of the law. He calls himself Christian, yet he is against the Palestinian Christians who live in Bethlehem and Jerusalem. How could you have a man like that calling himself Christian? I mean, I cannot fathom what's going on, but I can assure you of one thing. No matter how long it takes, injustice doesn't last, because injustice has a short life. It cannot be maintained except by force or by injustice. And in the long run, life and people cannot tolerate that. All I'm hoping for, that the time to bring justice back should not take too long, so that people will not suffer too much and not many people will die or live miserably.
Yes, hopefully, and far too many have been killed and are living miserably in this moment. I want to now bring in a question from one of the viewers, named Mohammed, who asks, how would you see the future of Palestine? Would it be a one democratic state, or is that not viable? I want to add to Mohammed's question. I want to read a quote which you wrote earlier this year, which appeared in the New Internationalist magazine. Your vision of the right of return for Palestinian refugees leading to a democratic state. You wrote, Jews can remain in the country as peaceful citizens, and Palestinian children born refugees like their parents and grandparents before them may finally see the land they have only known through stories. So you see this as viable, and it's been something you've argued for many years. Do you think it's still viable after this period of war and genocide and occupation, which is worse than anything known in the past?
Well, there are 2 aspects, or more than 2 aspects to this question. First of all, do we know Palestine now, the one we knew before? Would the Palestinians return? And if they return, will this be a democratic state or not state? What would happen to the people who are the Israelis who came to take Palestinian land, and so on? These are many valid questions, but they are peripheral. The main thing is The land taken away from people must or will always go back to them. In 1948, Palestinians were 1.5 million people. Today, we're 15 million people. Half of these 15 million people are right on the land of Palestine, and the other half are within 100 miles around it. There are probably 10-15% of Palestinians away from Palestine, but that's normal for any country. So Palestinians did not vanish. Palestinians did not stop claiming their right. Palestine as land, we know everything about it. We have maps, we have atlases. The geography of Palestine is very well documented. The people of Palestine as people demography-wise is very well documented. Their rights and ownership is very well documented, not only with us, but also at the United Nations. So to bring back Palestinians to their homes is not only legally valid, but also practically valid. Let us look at this another way. Who is occupying Palestinians' land today? 5 or 6 million Jews. Let us see where they are living. We made a study of where the present Jews in Israel living today. Are they living in Palestinian land, in villages and cities, or where? What's the distribution? We came to a surprising result, but verified completely, that 90% of Jews today in Israel live only in 10% of Israel, in 3 cantons, Tel Aviv, Haifa, and Jerusalem. And then you ask, then the land of the Palestinian refugees who are expelled, who lives in them? I can answer you. Only 850 kibbutz was allocated to take over Palestinian land in order to prevent the Palestinians from returning. They are guarding Palestinian refugee land so that they cannot come back. But their population is less than 10% of the Jews today. We have made even a tentative study. If we bring buses and trucks and tell those people in kibbutz, go back to Tel Aviv. It's not your land. Go to Haifa, no problem. Now, we made a plan that it can be done in 1 week. We can provide buses for people. It will not take them more than 45 minutes from Aqsa part, from the farthest part of Israel to Tel Aviv and Haifa. The actual evacuation of refugee land can be done in 1 week and will not affect anything, because population of Jaffa and Tel Aviv will be increased by only 10%. But here you have 20,000 square kilometers of Israel today. Most of it, let us say 85% of it, will be cleared of the kibbutz, and Palestinian in all villages, 530, can return peacefully. Now, the question is, would they want to live in that country or not? This brings me to your question. Will Palestine be democratic or not? To me, the answer is very simple. If every person lives legally in his home, not robbed home, not stolen home, everyone lives in his natural legal home, they make a population of a state, of a country. no matter whether they are Jews or Palestinians. If people live in their homes naturally and legally, they are free to elect a government of their own choice under democracy. But you cannot say, we have to say, we'll give them rights first and then we'll let them go back. This is wrong. When people live in their country peacefully and legally, then it's up to them. They can make it monarchy, they can make it a communist state, Islamic state, or whatever have you, even a Zionist state, if there are enough people to call for it. But to overturn the argument, what are going to have in Palestine if they return, this is the wrong question. The question is, everyone should be entitled to return home, and then under democracy, they should elect whatever system they like.
I want to ask another question touching on the refugee issue, which is about UNRWA and the current status of UNRWA, its history, and also possibly its future. It's always served to both, I think, looking at it critically, both to provide essential humanitarian support to Palestinian refugees and also possibly as a way of the United Nations trying to reassure itself that it's done something good for refugees without actually supporting their return. It's currently in very difficult circumstances. It's being defunded. It's being attacked viciously by not only the Israeli government, but also the US and some other Western governments. So where do you see the future of UNRWA going, and how would you evaluate the organization?
The attack on UNRWA is a direct attack on international law. The people who say that or try to implement this idea is really attacking the international law. Why is that? In 11th of December 1948, United Nations passed Resolution 194. Now, 194 has been passed by overwhelming majority, even at one point with the indirect agreement of Ben Gurion, and it is still valid today, affirmed 130 times in the last 78 years. So it's no more a resolution. It is a law, prescribed law. What does it say? It said three things. First, Palestinians must be allowed to return. Second, they must be given assistance until they return. Third, there must be an organization created, a mechanism to implement that. The first part, that they should return, is still valid. The second one, to have relief, they created UNRWA. There was one before that name, but it ended to be UNRWA. And the third one, mechanism for the return of refugees, this United Nations agency is still available, is still valid, it's found in the United Nations till today. Israel refused that they refused to return, but it allowed that their relief is to be implemented by UNRWA. Why did they agree that? Because under international law, if you cause harm to somebody, you are responsible for it. If there is no UNRWA, Israel would be responsible for feeding, housing, and even returning Palestinian refugees. So Israel was delighted At that time, and this is very clear record, that UNRWA will exist because it relieves this from its responsibilities. And therefore, now today, refugees did not return, that's item number one. Item number two, UNRWA is still in existence. Number three, the mechanism for return is redundant. So for Israel, which welcomed UNRWA in the first place, as I said, because it relieves it from responsibility, has now found that UNRWA is the only item of three items of 194 still operative. And therefore, it will kill 194 by killing UNRWA, the only remaining live member of 194. That's its aim. But of course, it cannot be because UNRWA is responsible to the General Assembly of the United Nations. It's not responsible before any government like United States and so on. And the United Nations General Assembly insists that UNRWA should stay by a majority of 160 members of 193 members. So UNRWA cannot be cancelled or removed as long as there is United Nations General Assembly.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salman. I want to finish fairly soon as it's
Yes.
late where you are joining us from Kuwait, and we're very grateful that you have come on this call. It's been very enlightening. I want to just return to quickly to your scholarship, and in particular the exhibition that you put together on the 2000 years of maps, which I believe is currently showing in Kuwait and will be touring elsewhere. So I'd like just for you to tell us a little about that and how we can see it if we are interested in it somewhere near us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, I would like to say something about that. But before I go away, if any of your viewers is interested in anything we do, please ask him to write to info@plands.org. It's Palestine Land Society, which I have established 25 years ago for the purpose of documenting Palestine, land, and people. We issued 7 atlases, and we prepared probably 200-300 research papers. They are all available online. Let me just add one point. Of all this work, and we have many people of our enemies who don't like it, not one of them, whether a professor or a government or a university, disputed anything we published. Neither atlas, nor people, nor geography, nor geography. And this is actually something to be stated. So the last project we have is Palestine maps in 2000 years. We have collected maps about Palestine from present time till previous time, the Ottoman times and so on, till the year 313, when the Palestinian bishop Eusebius of Caesarea made the first map of Palestine in the year 313. He did it at that time to guide the Christian pilgrims who are going to Jerusalem. So he told them, you land on the Mediterranean, you take village, go from village Rama to village so and so. And he gave us the seeds for the first atlas we made. So when we say we have maps of Palestine in 2000 years, we are telling the truth. and it is about the same Palestine. But there's something more interesting than that. All these maps in 2,000 years describe places of villages and their names. Neither their places, Gabriel, neither their places nor their names have changed over 2,000 years. Rama is Rama. Gabriel, the name of this and that is the same, with slight phonetic alteration. But I can tell you, quite honestly, I stand to be corrected if someone can do that. There is no city, place in Europe has such record for such a long time with such consistency. And then they come and tell you something outrageous, that Palestine is a land without people. We have a record of 2,000 years by the same people, even, what shall I say? The idea that this can be contested is really an atrocious state of the civilization, so-called, in Europe. To question that. But enough said.
Just tell us the other places where you hope to take your exhibition.
Sorry?
The other cities where you'll have your exhibition on display.
I see. Again, let me say this again. I welcome any suggestions and comments and questions they can send to me. Now, we held it in Kuwait first, then we held it in Cairo. We're going to hold it in Cairo with a larger audience. It's going to be planned at the moment to be held in Turkey and in Lebanon, and we have an offer to hold it in London as well. And I'm sure there will be more places which will invite us to do it. By the way, if any of your audience is interested, let me tell them what we want. Very simple. We need a floor space of 120 square meters. We need a wall space to hang things onto of 100 square meters of wall space. We need 10 video screens. We need a few things like that. And we can do the rest. We can install the exhibition, and we can provide all the data electronically, and that's all.
That's fantastic.
So let us know if you have any takers.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Okay, well, I will wrap things up by saying thank you so much, Dr. Salman Abu Sitta. You mentioned that anyone can get in touch with you through the Palestine Land Society website and email address. And thank you very much to the Palestinian Return Center for hosting this conversation, which I've really enjoyed. Thank you to all the viewers now and in the future. And yes, what can I say other than the 50th anniversary of Land Day needs to be a day when we redouble our efforts for Palestine. We never lose sight of the Palestinian struggle. We never lose sight of justice, including the right of return for all refugees, including a region, a country and a region free of racism, free of apartheid, settler colonialism and genocide. And Dr. Salman has done so much for that. So thank you so much. And goodbye and free Palestine.